Now tell me, can you all read the question? Everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A student investigates the length of the time taken. Now, is he measuring the length or the time? The length of the time, that means it is not the length, actually it is a time. So length of the time taken for ice cubes to melt when they are placed in water. She uses beakers of water at different temperatures to investigate how the initial temperature of the water affects the time taken for the ice cubes to melt. Plan an experiment to investigate how the initial temperature of the water affects the time taken for the ice cubes to melt. The following apparatus is already available: the thermometer, ice cubes, 250 centimeter cubes of beakers, supply of cold water. In your plan, you should do things like this. Write a list of additional apparatus to use. Explain how to carry out the investigation. State the key variables to keep constant. Draw a table or tables with column headings to show how to display the readings. Explain how to use the readings to reach the conclusion. Now see, this has become very good for you that they have given major pointers. These can be taken as references, but this is a 7-mark question. Okay, so whenever you are writing a 7-mark question, irrespective of what is given over here, I will give you certain points that you need to definitely put in so that you get complete marks. Complete 7 marks ke liye, you will be writing an answer of 10 marks. This is my way. Okay, what is my way? I would write 10 marks worth of question, 10 mark worth of answer to score 7 marks. Got it? So there is no scope that they can cut your marks. There cannot be any scope, because see, for different questions, the MSs vary. Now for this question, the MS is given, and you can see that 1 mark for something, 1 mark for here, 2 marks for this, 1 mark for table, 1 mark for conclusion, but it is not consistent. In every 7-mark question, this bifurcation of marks is not consistent. Okay, so sometimes they will give marks for table but no marks for conclusion in the MS, and the examiner will follow that. So therefore, I don't want you all to miss any of the marks, and hence I have created a 10-mark formula which you will write down right now, not for this question but in general. Okay, okay, yeah, just a second. You'll start writing. This is going to go to AO3 now. Very important detail. How to get this right, you will have to understand. Today's CS you already know, so I'm not wasting time there. Where's this? Okay. Point number 1, start with the diagram. Point number 1, you will always start, because see, there is space given. Yes, can you see? Space is given.
Yes, yes.
This space is ideally for diagrams. That is the reason they have given that space. Okay, so first things first, you will draw the diagram. Just a second. You will fetch somewhere around 1 mark. In some questions, if the diagram is very important for the solution, you might also get 2 marks. So never miss on drawing a diagram, even if they say or they don't say. You will draw a diagram. The diagram has to be in pencil. Okay, don't draw it with a pen. Secondly, whenever you draw a diagram, take help of scales. Do not draw rough diagram. This is very bad. This is no diagram actually. So use scale, use proper diagram, and see to it that you leave space for diagram. If at all, like see, in the paper, you're left with 15 minutes, okay? And you see that you always take 20 minutes to answer this question. You see to it that you just leave the diagram and write all the masala and come at the last and draw the diagram if at all you are facing problems with the time. Okay. So you can risk that 1 mark instead of risking 6 marks, because diagram drawing should take around 3 to 4 minutes. If you're using the scale and pencils and everything very nicely. Also do label the diagram, otherwise it doesn't make sense. Right? So that was your first point. Point number 1 done. Point number 2. You will mark down all the apparatus which would be needed. They might give you some apparatus the way they have done it in this experiment. In some of the experiment, they will not give you any apparatus. You will have to mark down all the apparatus, list of all the apparatus, and you will be doing that. Either they will ask you for any extra apparatus, so write down will need these apparatus extra to carry out this experiment, or else write down all the apparatus that would be needed. So this has by now fetched you 2 marks.
Okay.
Now see, just pay attention to this detail, very important one. Now this is the core of the entire experiment. Just pay attention. V is directly proportional to I. Sorry. If I want to convert this into an equation, I will have to take a constant which is R over here, right? V is equal to IR. So I am keeping R as a constant variable. I am not making any changes to R when I'm doing an experiment on voltage and current, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Rather than writing, pay attention to the explanation, please. So here, some things was kept constant so that we can solve this experiment quite well. So third point will be, in an experiment, there will be certain physical quantities or variables which we need to keep constant. Okay, so we'll say that constant variables. What are the constant variables for this experiment? This may or may not fetch you 1 mark. May or may not, because it depends from mark scheme to mark scheme. We don't want to lose marks, so we'll say that, okay, we have these things which needs to be constant. So in this experiment, can you tell me something that you need to keep constant? And that is, over here, I will be either keeping the mass or the volume of water constant. I'll keep the mass or the volume of water constant. I will not make changes to that, but I will keep the temperatures at different values and see how well it cools. Right, everyone? To make this experiment
Yes,
fair. So constant variables are basically used so as to make the experiment fair enough. Okay. So whenever you're talking about the fairness, you are actually talking about what things you will keep constant so that this experiment is a fair experiment. Now, when you're doing an experiment of voltage versus current, what is there in your hand? You have a variable battery whose voltages you can change. An ammeter is where you are seeing the answers. Okay. You are seeing your answers in the ammeter and you are controlling the voltage. You are controlling the voltage. You are changing the voltage. 1 volt, 2 volt, 3 volt, 4 volt. For 1 volt, what is the current? For 2 volts, what is the current? For 3 volt, what is the current? For 4 volt, what is the current? So something is in your control and something is dependent, right? So fourth point is control variable. Control variable is a variable which you are varying. Control variables. So here the control variable is voltage. In our experiment, which we are doing right now, in this experiment, what are we controlling? We are controlling different temperatures. We are keeping one temperature at maybe 90, then another at 80, then another at 70 and 60. So we are controlling the variable called as temperature right now in this experiment. Got it? So you might or might not get another 1 mark here. You might also get 2 marks for this. It depends from MS to MS again. Fifth one, the dependent variable. Dependent variable is normally the one which we are trying to find. And that is going to be 1 mark over here. What is the dependent variable here in this experiment that we are conducting? In the experiment, it is time. Time is the dependent variable because we are going to use a stopwatch to calculate the time. Right? In this case, the circuit case, ammeter is where we are looking at for answers. So current is a dependent variable. So by now you might get for this thing, you might get an answer, or you might get a mark for this, or you might get 2 marks for this also. Again, depends from MS to MS. So by now we have made points which are equivalent to 5 marks. Okay. Control variables, dependent variables. Next. 6th point would be, like, while you're doing these things, you will also have to explain what you're going to do. Okay. The method. What is the method? What is the method? What you're going to do is you will keep different beakers at different temperatures and measure the time at every 1 minute or every 30 seconds or every 20 seconds and put it into the table. That is what you're going to do. So you will have method. So method carries 1 mark to 2 mark depending on what kind of an experiment it is. These are called as method marks. What is the method to perform this experiment? Okay. Point number 6 clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, because we are doing an experiment and everyone is a naive person, currently you're not a very qualified physicist. So because you all are naive, there can be situations where you can manhandle or mishandle the experiment. Okay. So obviously during an experiment, there are things which you will have to take care. So point number 7 will be precautions to be taken while doing this experiment. Or you can also say how to increase the accuracy. In all the questions, always remember, in all the questions, mandatorily, to increase the accuracy, take multiple readings. If you just write take multiple readings, you are damn sure to get 1 mark, because that is the most important point they're looking for an experiment. You cannot just rely on 1 reading. Like you just went there in the experiment lab, you took 80 temperature, 80 degrees Celsius, and you just took 1 experiment and you came back. That is a wrong experiment, because you have to prove it time and again that if we are doing it again and again and again and again, we are getting somewhat similar answers very near to each other. And this avoids a lot of errors from our answers. Okay. So point number 7 can be precautions or accuracy. This will depend from 1 mark to 2 mark depending on an experiment, what kind of an experiment and how important the accuracy factor is. So always make it a point that you write this point. Repeat. Just writing this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just writing this 6-letter word, you get 1 mark. Always, always, always.
What if we write
Repeat
the experiment 3 or 4?
Experiment with different beakers. Repeat the experiment for different temperatures, whatever. Repeat the experiment for different voltages. Repeat the experiment for different resistors. So यहाँ पे we have taken, in this experiment, we have taken that the resistor is same, right?
Yeah.
We'll repeat the whole experiment taking some other resistor. So it depends what kind of answer you want to write. Any which ways, you need to repeat the experiments. Now, I cannot give you all the answers right now because it will come from practice that you will understand. Oh, isme aisa repeat hota hai. Got it? Point number 8. Table. How will you draw a table? Just mark out like this. Make a table. That's all. Only thing to be filled is the top row. What are we doing in this experiment, sir? Control variable voltage. What is the answer variable? Sir, current. Current is what we are referring to. That is a dependent variable. What are we looking at the answer at? Sir, we are finding power. So power becomes the last column which you are actually finding. Okay. Also write down the units. If you just write down this way, that is wrong. Also write down the units. And that's how your table is complete. One more mark for your table. Sir, what next?
So, can we fill values in the table?
Not needed. How will you fill values unless you have done an experiment?
Like if they specify a range,
If
so we
they
can.
specify, then, but normally they won't.
Okay.
Okay, in this experiment, they won't specify any values. Now that you have got the table, obviously a graph, sir. Before making a conclusion, I need to see a graph. Again, in graph, what you will do? It is also going to fetch you 1 mark. Again, in graph, do not try and, plot the values. Just draw what is on the x-axis, what is on the y. Now tell me, anyone knows what should be coming on the x-axis?
Is the variables that we are testing, the
No,
temperature.
it is always the control variable which is on the x-axis, and the
Yes,
dependent variable is always on the y-axis.
the y-axis.
Okay, remember this. The control variable is always on the x-axis. The dependent variable is always on the y-axis. This is the major, or you can say this is the most important point that you would recommend or refer to in the entire physics, not just this paper. Whatever you are controlling and varying, that is what will come on the x-axis. So in this experiment which we are doing, the control variable in our hand is the temperature. We are taking different temperatures. And the dependent variable is a time. So we can plot it that way. Okay. And the last point is on the basis of the graph. Actually, we don't have a graph. Actually, we don't have a table. But by the knowledge that we have already gained by learning Igcse,
Conclusion.
we'll be drawing a conclusion that this is what would happen. So this conclusion is not dependent on the graph or on the table that you have drawn. It purely depends on your knowledge. Okay. So last point is conclusion, which will fetch you 1 more mark. So if you see, for 7 mark, we have a recipe of 10 marks. Now tell me, will any examiner be in any position to cut your marks if your answer is so perfect? Not possible.
No.
Not possible. Okay. And this is the process which I have taught you. If you want to be a scientist, what you'll do? First, draw a sketch. What you're going to do? Try to get all the apparatus from the shop or maybe from Amazon. Decide what will be the constant variables that you don't want them to move at all so that the experiment is fair enough. Then what are you going to control and change? Find out the dependent variables. Also specify the method so that somebody else, like if I am doing this experiment in my laboratory and I want everyone in the world to do this experiment, I will have to recommend some method that I did this, then I did this, then I did this. You can also do that. While doing the experiment, these were the issues that I found out. That if I was not doing repeated experiments or if I was not doing certain precautions, my experiment was going false or it was giving me random answers, wrong answers. So please take care about these two. Then finally plot a table. Try to find out this with a calci. Try to plot a graph. Looking at the graph, make a conclusion. This was the standard procedure which I taught you on that day when I made you all the scientists. Okay. The same thing, the same story of that scientist, you will repeat in your head and just write up. Okay. Okay, everyone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We are done with ATP. If you score anything less than a 40, God help you. Yes, Arvind. Yes, tell me.
So in the method part, while writing the steps for the experiment, is it
Hmm.
okay if we write in pointers?
Yes, yes. Pointers are fine. Do not exceed the method point more than 3 points. Like it should be very concise and very precise. 3 pointers, that's max. Because any which ways you will only fetch 1-2 marks for the method.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Yes, sir.
again, it will depend from experiment to experiment. You will come to know over time that certain experiments are very precisely about the method only. So they don't have the control variable so important. They don't have the other part so important. It is only the method. So you can specify the method for 4 points there. But otherwise, strictly 3 pointers wind up your method. That's all.
Okay, sir.
And any which ways you are giving all the data up, like upfront, constant variables, control variable, dependent variable. So the method has been reduced drastically. You already know what is to be done. So it will come from practice. Don't worry.
Okay, sir.
Yes, Prashil, your doubt, please.
So can you define the dependent variable?
Dependent variable is the one which we measure, like a stopwatch जो हम लोग देखेंगे and measure the time. In this case, we are controlling the voltage and we are looking at the ammeter to find out what is the current when I have a particular voltage.
Okay, understood.
Current is the one which is dependent on the experiment. After doing the experiment, I will get this as an answer. This is called as a dependent variable,
Okay.
or the variable which I'm taking the answers of. That way. Okay. Everyone made a note of this. Anyone wants to
Yes.
copy?
Note.
These are the 10 pointers. Yeah, yeah. Tell me.
So for the point 9 in graph,
Hmm.
we don't have the graph paper, so how we would draw the graph?
The way I have done.
Like,
The way I have done. But use a pencil. Don't use a pen, please.
yes, sir.
Use a pencil. Use a scale. On the x-axis, write down the control variable and the unit. On the y-axis, write down the dependent variable and the unit. That's all.
So
You're
sir,
just
we don't
giving.
have to.
You don't have to plot anything. Did I plot anything?
No, sir.
Do you have any value to plot?
No, sir.
How will you plot? You cannot plot. If at all it is very evident, like something like Ohm's law or something which has got to do with Hooke's law, and it is very evident that you have studied, yes, you can plot. It doesn't make sense because you don't have the data. But if you
Okay, sir.
plot, it's okay. You won't really get affected by that.
Okay, got it, sir.
Okay, let's see the MS for this question now. So what all marks you are getting for what pointers? So you're getting 1 mark for the apparatus. What apparatus we need? We need a method of heating water. So you will need an electric heater and you will need a timer to calculate the time. You got 1 mark for writing these apparatus out. Okay. Now there are 2 marks for method. Can you see the method? Can you see the method over here? Method. Measure the temperature
Yes,
of the
sir.
water and then place ice cubes in the water and measure the time taken to melt. That is method point number 1. So see how precise and very concise and very straightforward it is. Second mark for method, melt. Repeat the water at different temperatures. See, I told you, repeat will always fetch you 1 extra mark. In each and every experiment that you would see, you will always get this repeat point and you will get 1 mark for that. Okay, so repeat is just added into the method point only. Any which way, it doesn't matter if you put it as a method point or a repeat point. I've just shown you what is to be done. So method and repeat, you got 1 mark each, so 3 marks by now. key variables, any two from mass and volume of the ice cubes. These should be kept what? These should be kept
Constant.
These should be
Constant,
constant.
sir.
So for 1 mark for writing that out. Numbers and size of the cubes per test. The temperature of the ice cube. The volume and the amount of the water in the beaker. The room temperature and the amount of string used. All these are to be kept constant. Okay. And what are, see now in this question, because major data was already given by them, that you are having different temperatures and you will be measuring time. So in this question, because they've already shown what is a dependent variable and what is the independent variable, you're not getting marks for that. Why? Because that is already given in the question. But see to it that you keep on writing it, because every question is different and you will not be able to judge what are they expecting you. So whatever methodology I have shown, you just write it the way it is. But yes, over here, what needs to be done is, what is a key variable that needs to be kept constant? That is what they are focusing on. And you're getting 1 more mark for writing down this, the temperature, volume, the room temperature, and amount of string used. Now you're getting mark for a table. 1 mark for the table drawing. Okay. Table and graph sometimes both together make 1 mark. Sometimes in some experiment, table 1 mark, graph 1 mark. So it depends again from MS to MS, how they are manipulating the 7 marks. Finally, conclusion always will fetch 1 mark. Conclusion will always fetch 1 mark. Repeat will always fetch 1 mark. These two will remain constant in each and every question. If you see also apparatus, if major apparatuses are not given, most of the time they expect you to write 1 more experiment. Or sorry, 1 more apparatus. So apparatus, repeat, and conclusion will always fetch you 1 mark each in all the cases. So this was the MS for this question. If you go on writing and you go on seeing all the different questions, you will see that all the questions have different MSs and different marking points. Okay. Now it is a matter of practice that you will be able to get, oh, isme itne ke liye ye mark mila, iske liye ye mark mila. So what formula I have given is considering each and every MS which is available by date or till date. In every MS there will be mark for something. So we have made a 10-point formula. You will not lose marks if you write all of the problems on all of the points. I hope I've made my point very clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your doubt, Arvind. Yes, Arvind, your doubt.
Yes, sir. Sir, for the last questions, are there any certain chapters that would be
Yes,
be
for
the
last question,
fourth
normally the question would come from block 1. Okay. For last question, always write down. This will always come from these questions or this point. See, it will be always dependent on either block 1 or, just a second, I'll have to change the orientation. So the questions which will be probably based on block 1. So should I write block 1 or should I specify time, distance, then speed sometimes, acceleration, then we have movements. Okay, all these factors will definitely come in, and anything which connects to block 1. This is a probable question. Then electricity, definitely a circuit is asked, and some things based on that. Thermal physics. Electricity, thermal physics. And in the entire paper, if you consider the entire ATP paper,
Yes, sir.
these 4 blocks are where the questions come from majorly. Electricity, thermal, waves, that is light, specifically light experiments. In light also, what kind of experiments? So based on reflection, or it can be based on refraction of a glass block, or it will be based on lens. Okay. These are the major areas again in light.
Okay, sir.
So that's the ATP for you. For ATP, you need not do the entire syllabus.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So, sir,
In fact,
these are all.
what I recommend is, before your ATP paper, whenever it is, on the day previous or a day prior to the ATP paper, you should be in a position to solve 15 past papers. 15 past papers. You need to go through all the question MS. The way I've kept it over here. Can you see this? Question MS. Immediately question MS. Question. Okay. MS.
Can you go back to
MS that way. Got it? So
Yes,
this
sir.
will help you
Sir,
fine tune yourself a lot. Yes, Mohak, please talk.
these are all what the topics the experiment will be on, right?
Yes, these are the
The
experimental topics. Mostly these will be the topics. So see, time, distance, speed, acceleration, moments, Hooke's law. Okay, all these will be major. The block one is a major thing. Sometimes they also ask Hooke's law or maybe spring experiments.
Yes, sir. It was there in one of the IWs.
Yes.
Also.
So ideally, all these experiments will come. That's all. It will happen over time. Like if you have solved somewhere around 20-25 papers, you'll automatically come to know, okay, these kind of questions come. And once you're done thorough and you're thorough with 20-25 papers, ATP papers, you will automatically give all the answers. You will become a pro in that. The only question that you need to take care is the 7-mark question. That requires a lot of practice. So over the time now, try and solve all the papers available.
Okay, sir.
Now again, you need to refer to code number 62 only, okay? Because that is what will most probably match with our Indian standards. So when you're doing the 7-mark question, try and only solve 62. Otherwise, if you solve 61, 63, there'll be slight changes. Possibility of slight changes. So again, that is to be taken care of. But if you solve all papers 61, 63 code, 62 code, it will give you a better edge. Done, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Made your notes?
Yes, sir.
Great. So now I think we'll go for doubts if you have any with respect to your IOWs, and we'll wind up. I think we are done with one of the doubts for Prashil. Prashil, is it clear?
Yeah, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anyone else who has a doubt? I think after this explanation, nobody will have any doubts. All your IOWs will be done. Just go back, check your IOWs. Whatever fine tuning you need to do, do it. If at all you come across any doubt with respect to MS and their explanation, you can ask me anytime in the next classes to come. You will have to write this 10-pointer formula 10 times for the next week. 10-pointer formula. That diagram consists of 1 mark, apparatus consists of this and this. You will write it 10 times before you come to the next week. So this is your assignment. You will write the 10-point formula for question 4 10 times. Okay, that's your assignment.
That
What happened, Mohak?
we have to write this all 10 of them, all
All
10
the
of the
10
points.
steps. Only pointers, obviously. That point number 1, diagram, 1 mark. What is the marking given to each and every point? That, and what is the point? 10-point formula. This would go as AS3, assignment 3. It's given on 29th of September.
You're giving this as IOW?
No, I'm giving this as an assignment for the next week.
For next week.
So before you come to the Monday's class, by Sunday it should be done.
By Sunday.
If
So
you
where
don't
we
do
have to
it,
upload it?
upload it in AS3. Sorry, as AS3 and AO3.
Okay, sir. Sure.
Because this is experiment. Everything connected to ATP paper will go to AO3 on. If you're not doing this and uploading it, it will multiply to 100 times. If you don't do it then I will have a special session with you called specially to the school, and you will write 1,000 times in front of me. So make sure you do it in the first go. Hmm. 10-point formula, 10 times to be submitted before Sunday. Before Sunday, it should be uploaded, or else you will get 10x. Yes, today's work, whatever you have written, would go to CS 26, right?
Yeah, sir.
Yes, sir.
Today's work is in CS26. Right?
Yeah. And now I suppose there are no doubts left with ATP. There will be doubts, but you can ask it later on in during the sessions. But ideally, with respect to the understanding, I think there should not be any doubts. If you can see my screen, for the next coming whatever weeks till the time we are operating, all the IOWs have been set. Now onwards, you are not just doing the last question, you'll be doing all the questions. So for your weekend task, it's going to be entire papers. So next week onwards, like this coming week onwards, this is a Thursday. So I'm right away telling you that for next week, you have ATP paper 6 to May, June 2019 to be completed entirely, not just one question. Okay, right from question number 1 to question number 4 or 5, whatever is the last question, you will do that. And it is on the same page of the, you can say, web page. All the web pages, or the single web page has all the ATP things. So if you are smart enough, I would suggest that you can do 2 or 3 papers in one go and keep it. So whenever I ask for, you can upload it, and then complete 2 or 3 papers and upload it whenever I ask for. So that you are also ready for your mocks, and you also are done with 2 or 3 weeks, and you can.
टीवी नहीं चल रहा, मुझे फोन देखना चल टीवी नहीं चली आई, टीवी नहीं चल रहा है वैसे उसका तो मैच तो वैसे भी यूट्यूब देख रहा है मत तो मेरा खत्म होने वाला है अरे तो मेरा जब तक ब्रेक के लिए तो देना
Okay, everyone. All the IOWs are pasted on the same web page, so you can refer to it. For MSs, you will have to find out. I'll be making a page for MSs also, and I'll give you so that you need not refer to different situation and different websites. So I'll just upload them also, but I'll upload it in the next week. So before that, you can complete that. I hope all the instructions are very clear to you all.
Yes, sir.
Everyone?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You all can come up
Yes,
with any doubts that you have. I am done for the day, what I had to cover.
At 11:37.
I am done with what I had to cover. Now you all can come up with the doubts which you have in a particular paper, a particular question. Sir, I was solving this. I did not understand
Sir.
this. Please raise your hand before speaking. Who's talking? Yes, Mittal, tell me.
So is it fine if we exceed the lines while writing our answers?
Ideally, you should try to fit in.
Like
Okay.
in the last question, as you said, you should write 10 points. So
Yes, I told you to write 10 points, but you should try to fit in all the points within the given answer area. See, there is a rule in Igcse that, see, I've written some things in the area which is like this over here. Can you see this area? This
Yes,
area?
sir.
These does not get scanned. Okay. What maximum you can use in this part is also like this much. The below part does not get scanned. So I think the examiner or maybe our examination head will be in better position to answer you this query. Are they scanning to this point or are they scanning till this point? But anything up outside this line will not be scanned and you will lose out on marks. Anything before this line is not getting scanned and you will lose out on the marks. So always try to wind up your answer here on this line. Whatever extra you want to add, you should add it somewhere here. Okay.
Okay, sir.
But also ask your examiner, like exam section head, that how is the scanning process done? Till my knowledge, it is only done from this point to this point in the vertical sense, and in the horizontal sense, it starts here and ends here. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Try to consolidate, try to write it as short as possible, to the point, because I've told you these are all pointers. It will be to the point answers only. Only the method is where you will post in a lot of lines. So try to wind up your method in 2 or 3 points, considering the repeat point.
So the precautions are accuracy doesn't always have to be repeat, right, sir?
No. For accuracy, it is repeat. For precaution, it is a different point. Now it depends from question to question. That is what I told you. So sometimes you will be asked about the precautions in these lines. State one precaution that you need to take care of while doing the experiment. So in that case, add one more point called as precaution. I have just consolidated both of them in point number 7. You can make these 2 points separately in such a question. You will also say about repeat, because repeat is a point made inside the method, and you can add an entire another section called as a precaution.
If either one is asked, right? If either one is asked.
Just a second. Who is this?
So either one. Yeah.
Just one
both
second.
Of them won't be asked.
1 second. 1 second. Yeah, tell me what you were saying.
Yeah, we'll know which one is which.
No, see,
Both of them.
at
We'll
this
know which.
accuracy repeat point inside method. So
Method.
so you write down method ke andar, you need to make sure that you point down the accuracy. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes. Either precautions or accuracy will be asked, right? Or both will.
Accuracy and repeat has to be there in each and every question.
Yeah.
Precaution is
Yes, sir.
optional. Precaution is optional.
Yes. Repeat. Yes, for accuracy.
Repeat needs to be there in each and every